say no to Trump and that we're going to continue to mobilize whether or not he stays in office. So I'm Chris Lee. I'm speaking from the Road Socialist Organization. I just wanted to say two things. The first being that Road Socialist Organization absolutely supports and fights for community control of the police. Because we believe that the working class and the African American communities in the South need to have leadership of their own communities. And we can't have the police putting people down, keeping black people down. We can't have that any longer, and we want to put power back in the hands of the people who live in those places.
That's right.
And the Black Belt South in the U.S. has a special history, right? There's a huge concentration of folks who live there. A lot of people have been building, their own communities, schools, businesses, been really the life and blood of this section of the South. And that has not gone recognized by the White House. In fact, they've been spat on by the White House, and the police reinforce this every single day. And we're saying no to that. So we're saying no to the immediate killings of innocent people, such as Jonas Joseph in Tampa, Josiah Pinner in Tampa. And we're also saying that in the long term, there needs to be real self-determination, real national liberation. As Malcolm X said, there needs to be real freedom for black folks to have their own black courts, communities, schools, businesses, the freedom to live and thrive as any American should. Americans who've been here for a long damn time. So I wanted to say that's why we stand behind community control of the police. And then as for what we want to say about the election, we think Trump is stealing it. And then I'll speak here from our statement, which is pretty articulate as to exactly what that means. The world is watching as Americans vote to defeat Trump and the Republican agenda of racism, discrimination, and oppression. Of course, the system already cheated the American people back in 2016. Trump lost the popular vote, but was declared president by the elitist electoral college system. Now Donald Trump threatens to be at it again and to do it again like Bush did in 2000, trying to lie, cheat, and steal his way back into the White House. Trump learned a lot back in 2000 when the Supreme Court used hanging chads to declare Bush the president. Like Bush, Trump will stop at nothing, purging black voters from election polls, telling the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by, whatever the fuck that means, forcing voters to stand in line for hours at the polls, slowing the U.S. mail, and refusing to count mail-in ballots. We've seen this. This was written earlier this week. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. I got permission now. And refusing to count mail-in ballots, as we all witnessed last night when he had the nerve to get up in front of the TV and say he won despite losing the votes of just the in-person votes on Election Day and continuously is being outpaced by Biden through the mail-in ballots. We're watching this happen with our own eyes. Together, the people must unleash a storm of struggle. If voting is not doing it, and it's clear to us that voting alone is not doing it, then it's time to take it to the streets and to be out there. We need rallies. We need marches of working class and oppressed people with our allies, advancing democratic demands and challenging the system, and we need to do it ourselves, as we are out here tonight doing. 4 years ago, protesting Trump's inauguration in Washington, D.C., the Road Socialist Organization political secretary, Steph York, declared, "Our goal is to make the country ungovernable for Trump and the Republicans." And I believe that we've done that, and this year has really showed that. The next day, the Women's March was the largest mass protest in U.S. history. Trump immediately launched attack after attack, and people resisted these with growing numbers of protests despite the pandemic, despite the economic crisis, despite mass unemployment, despite the shootings, the killings, the tear gas, the bullets. We've been out here and we've been growing despite the odds. We've done everything in our power to fan the flames of this resistance, from airport protests slamming Trump's Muslim ban, to rallies at ICE offices denouncing immigrant children locked in cages, to promoting and leading the growing number of strikes by workers, to opposing Trump's attacks on LGBTQ people. After the righteous anger of widespread militant protests against the gruesome Minneapolis police officers' murder of George Floyd, it is safe to say there are more people standing up and fighting back in our country than any time since the 1970s. So say it with us. Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back! refuses to leave, we will need to do things like demand that our local, county, and state governments don't comply, that they refuse to recognize him and act against him and literally make this country ungovernable. They're accountable to us. They serve us. They don't serve him and his white supremacist pigs. We need to make sure they know that and never forget it. We have worked to meet Trump's attacks with unity and people power solidarity. When the people force Trump to concede, it will be a very happy day. We'll see at the end of this week what that looks like. And then we advance to the next phase of struggle. Regardless of how Trump leaves office, our next target is a president who also dances to the tune of Wall Street bankers. With the economic and health crisis ongoing, we cannot return to the old ways of doing things because clearly they did not work. With Biden in office, little is going to change unless we demand it and back it up with people power, including the organized forces of the working class. Biden is not going to save us. Kamala Harris is not going to save us. We must initiate the changes we want through our own movements and with leadership consciously acting independently of both parties of Wall Street. Biden's record is clear. He pushed poor people off welfare, he locked up black men and others at record numbers, and he enthusiastically went to war against countries and peoples that Wall Street considered too independent and too strong and needed to be invaded by the U.S. To make change, we need to advance a people's agenda like the one at the march on the Democratic National Convention in Milwaukee, August 2020. Of the many reforms people want, the ones that stand out the most are immigrants' rights and reversing climate change, and then three more stand out even beyond those. We immediately need health care for all to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, a demand that is being raised and echoed everywhere. We need extended and expanded unemployment, bring back the $600 now, right, to pay rent and bills and for people to keep their houses and their livelihoods and the ability to support their families. And most importantly, we need to end the police killings and the police terror with community control of the police. Woo! Woo! The fact is, we need to be rid of Trump. His brand of brutality and reaction is not only a concrete threat to people's lives, the constant loss of ground and of reforms that it took years and years to win is an impediment to making progress on many issues with the potential to demoralize the rising tide of struggle. That said, we are not confused about the nature of Biden or the fact that reforms do not go far enough. Working and oppressed people cannot get our dreams and our aspirations and inspirations met within the existing system. We need something different and we need something new that we are in charge of. So if you read Fight Back for News, our newspaper, then you will know we are building movements, trying to win immediate demands, and we're asking organizers and activists to build the fight for revolution by signing up with a revolutionary organization, ours included. Turn your righteous anger into militant and meaningful activism for revolution, socialism, and liberation. And let's stay out here. We know that the power to challenge Trump and to make things like community control show up as the presidential debates. That happened because of our social movements. That happened because of the people who were tear gassed and rubber bulleted and run over by people over during the protests this summer. That happened because of us, and it will only stay alive because of us. So let's stay militant, let's stay moving, and let's fight for revolution. When black people are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
When black people are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
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 Thanks everyone for having me out here. It's an honor to speak at this event. Thanks.